Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Noelle and I review and unbox subscription boxes here on my channel, but today I have something a little bit different. It is a one-time limited edition Halloween Mischief box from Once Upon a Book Club. So in addition to their monthly book subscription boxes, and they have them for middle grader, young adult, and adult options, they also do holiday themed boxes and sometimes seasonal boxes, which is always lovely. So for every Halloween that I can remember, they've always had a spooky and a sweet version. Usually the sweet was a little bit more of a romance and the spooky was often a thriller. I usually go for the thriller. I have gotten the sweet boxes in the past. This year they kind of rebranded and instead it was Magic and Mischief. So our book club that we run here on the channel and over in our private Facebook group, we were looking for one more read for this year because we try to do a read every quarter, but for a variety of reasons we were unable to get to 4 this year, but we wanted one more for the end of the year. So we saw the upcoming titles and decided to go with the Mischief box from Once Upon a Book Club. So that is what I have to share with you today. Now the monthly boxes are just $49.99. These one-time boxes are often a little bit more. You get all of the same elements in terms of the book, plus often a bookmark, a quote card, some little extras like sometimes a signed book plate, the collectible sticker that you can have on your water bottles or poster or what have you, but they usually have like maybe one more gift, I would say, than the usual 3 or 4. So in this case we did get 4 gifts, and if you are interested in just seeing what our book club is all about and you haven't already participated before, I believe I have it set up so that we're going to have our live stream discussion tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific or 8 p.m. for the East Coasters, and then you can figure out all of the time zones in between. But we do our weekly discussions for the book. Sometimes we do it over 3 weeks, sometimes we do it over 4 weeks, and then we do a live discussion with Priscilla, our book queen who heads up our book club, and myself over here on the channel. So if you want to tune in tonight, whether or not you've read the book, just to kind of see what the book club is kind of like and kind of chat about what we're going to be doing in the coming months for the 2025 selections, definitely feel free to join us. But the book in the box that we are talking about is Shari Lapena's What Have You Done? And I think I think it's Lapena, like there's supposed to be a little Enye there. So it was a hardcover novel, which I thought was really nice. And like I said, it did come with all of the usual items like the sort of guide that Once Upon a Book Club puts together with a conversation with the author, some reading discussions, and then some extras. And on the back they had some personal styling tips for Halloween, for a festive occasion. So I will save the conversation for our book club live stream tonight, and maybe I'll read some of the questions and answers, but I will, if I have time, go ahead and read through the letter from Shari on the back of the quote card. The quote card says, "We all have secrets, things we keep to ourselves that we would never want anyone to know." Indeed. And of course we have like, I think that's crime scene tape. I think that's crime scene tape. So then of course we have the matching bookmark. And then we also have, like I said, a signed book plate, which they always make it match the cover art, which is nice. And then here is that collectible sticker. And those are always in the monthly books as well, book boxes as well. So we did have a couple of extra things this time around. Actually, maybe just one. There was an insert on page 183 because there was some like texting going on, and so they included this like sticky note where it was like someone texting, so we know it's a blue bubble, so they both had iPhones. But that kind of like little extra paper gift to me doesn't necessarily add like a ton, but it was kind of a pivotal moment where it seems like the dead are texting. And I'm not giving anything away here, just in case you haven't read the book or you want to. The main character dies in the first few pages, so it's all about finding out who done it, essentially. There's definitely some red herrings. I will say that our book club was very astute in figuring out who was suspicious. There were kind of 3 main suspects, and it turns out you know, they were all guilty of something, and everyone in the book was a liar, and lots of people were sort of pigeonholing themselves into certain positions. I'm not sure I found the ending completely satisfying. There were some things that seemed a little bit too easy, as is always the case with thrillers and mysteries. I wasn't terribly surprised by some of it, but there was something that it just seemed like, wow, well, that's a coincidence, and that's a coincidence, and that's a coincidence. But let me go ahead and read the blurb to you if I can find it. Says, nothing ever happens in sleepy little Fairhill, Vermont. The teenagers get their kicks telling ghost stories in the old graveyard. The parents trust that their kids will arrive home safe from school. Everyone knows everyone. Curtains rarely twitch. Front doors are left unlocked. But this morning, all of that will change. Read in, like, imagine Keith Morrison reading that. But this morning, all of that will change. Because Diana Brewer isn't lying safely in her bed where she belongs. Instead, she lies in a hayfield, circled by vultures, discovered by a local farmer. How quickly a girl becomes a ghost. How quickly a town of friendly, familiar faces becomes a town of suspects, a place of fear and paranoia. Someone in Fairhill did this. Everyone wants answers. And one innocent question could be deadly. What have you done? So I don't actually remember anyone asking that question. There was a little element of the supernatural that came in, and it was a bit of a red herring. I was kind of like, was that necessary to throw us off the trail? But later there was an author's note explaining that that was like just a little nugget that was from her own experiences that I kind of threw in. Now I will say there were 4 tangible gifts, as always, in lovely Once Upon a Book Club created packaging, like these nice gift boxes. They were not spread out evenly throughout the box, and that is something that I really appreciate. Just, you know, talking about the box, not necessarily the book here. So we had something on page 61, and then in very quick succession, we had something from page 289, 295, and then finally 302. So yes, they were all like, the last 3 gifts were all within like 20 pages of each other, and I like them a little more spread out personally. But let's go ahead and see what we had on page 61 and see if I can recall what it was. Let's see. So this is what happens. Sometimes it's a big sticky note, sometimes it is a little itty bitty sticky note, and I have to try to remember. There were so many characters and so many suspects that I feel like we didn't really get a lot of character development just because there were so many of them, and I think I would have preferred having fewer characters and getting a little bit more backstory on a few of them that became really important. Anyway, Taylor's home already, having walked home with some other girls on the street at her mother's insistence when they texted earlier. Paula finds her daughter in the kitchen cutting up an apple. She doesn't normally hug Taylor after school, but today she gives her a swift, firm embrace, and her daughter squirms away. So because they have found Diana in the field, so now all the girls are being a little bit more careful, and the parents are all kind of suspecting everyone around. So we have our gift from page 61, which came in this nice box, and it is a glass cutting board, which now you're going to get a lot of crazy ring light reflection there. So I don't usually like to use glass cutting boards. I'm more of a old-fashioned wood or marble cutting board kind of girl, or even plastic. It says, in the end, we all become stories. So it's like glass, but it's fashioned to look like marble, and then it just has this discreet little quote on the bottom, which I like in terms of like a bookish sort of nod. It's not overwhelming. The glass is nice. You could definitely use it as a charcuterie board, which might be pretty. I'm just not going to hold it up too much because it's very like reflective, but it wasn't a terrible gift. I will say overall, and this box was, like I said, $64.99 if I didn't tell you already. The monthly box is $49.99, and this one-time box was $15 more at $64.99. We got one extra gift. And I will say that I was more satisfied with the Once Upon a Book Club monthly box that I just opened in terms of the gifts. There were really technically 4 gifts in that because 2 were paired together. For the September adult box, I thought had a stronger gift curation personally, and I usually do expect a little bit more out of these one-time boxes, but it wasn't bad. I just... not as useful necessarily, and again, like I said, not really spread out throughout the book, which is always kind of a nice thing to have, like a gift to look forward to. So the next one was on page 289, and I have to try to remember what it was so that I can remember to read the right passage. Let's see if I can open this box. Sometimes they fit so perfectly, it's challenging. Oh, okay, let's see. I'm trying to find it. Okay. So, and this is You'll see, you'll see. She finally gets up and quietly crosses the hall to Evan's bedroom. It's impeccably neat, the bed tidily made. She slumps onto his bed and rolls over onto her side facing the wall. This is Riley, one of Diana's friends. But she can't get comfortable and she turns on her stomach, pushing her face down onto the edge of the bed. She catches a glimpse of something bright red and sparkly on the floor. In the corner under the bed, something familiar. She looks more closely. Her eyes snap wide open. She's staring at the back of a phone case, one she recognizes immediately. So we have a bigger sticky note here. So inside we have this Emily Dickinson phone grip. So it says, tell all the truth, but tell it slant. So someone does actually use that quote earlier in the book, you know, in terms of telling the truth to the cops, but telling it slant. So I thought that was a nice little allusion to an earlier point. Obviously they can't send a sparkly red phone case to everyone because they don't know what size phones everyone has. So instead they did a phone grip, like a little pop socket essentially. But it just seems so sparkly to me. I love Emily Dickinson. I think her poetry is very esoteric. I actually have, Emily Dickinson is actually in my adopted family tree. So I've made more of an effort to try to understand her many dashes and poems, but tell all the truth, but tell it slant. It's just a little sparkly for me. If it had been more like in a script or like just simple, I would maybe use it. I've never really used a phone grip, so it was a good gift. I thought it was a good quote to put on it, a good moment in the book, but maybe, I don't know. I didn't need it to be red and sparkly. It just kind of like made it feel cheap, even though it was like a really like great quote somehow. All right, the next one was on page 295. Like I said, quick succession. So the last two gifts actually just came in nice wrapping paper, which I do try to open up as nicely as I can. This I thought was a kind of macabre gift. So, and this, by the way, these are the last few pages of the book. So if you are planning on reading this or you haven't gotten to the end yet, I would say wait on hearing the rest of these because it might be a little bit of a spoiler. So, but then come back when you have, or come and join us for our live stream that I usually keep those up for about 48 hours too, if you want to join us, and you can still comment. But it is fun to have people there in the chat. So let's see. Let's see if I can find it. But I was wrong. He pulled me back by my legs and turned me over in the middle of the living room floor. He climbed on top of me to hold me down, pinning my useless arms to the ground with his legs, and wrapped a jump rope around my neck and pulled. I was so afraid. I remember us looking into each other's eyes for a long, grotesque moment. I felt my eyes popping, the crushing pain in my throat, knowing that I was dying, as he looked down at me with rage. The last thing I heard was my phone ping with a text. So this is why I found it kind of macabre. We actually got a digital jump rope. So it's a jump rope, which in the book is used as a weapon, but it is digital. So you get these jump rope handles and then these weighted balls apparently, and then different eyelet attachments. So there's a little bit of that tech element, I guess, with like her phone pinging as the last thing, but I guess it's gonna like count how much you jump. So I've never seen a digital one. It just seems like, I don't know what the weighted balls do necessarily. I guess they can add weight to it, so it's a little bit more of a workout, but I know that's not something we're all necessarily thinking about this time of year. We're more like hibernating and doing things. So it does say, there's a rope attachment. Slide the end of the rope through one hole of the eyelet attachment. Loop the rope back around. Repeat steps. I'm a little confused. So there's a ball attachment. Slide the cap. Well, it tells you how to attach the ball, but I'm not really sure what that does. Digital jump rope. So you can track your results. I do know that much, that you can see how much you jumped, but maybe it like adds weight or resistance. So here are the balls. Those are like separate. I don't really know how this works, honestly, you guys. I've never used a digital jump rope. But I guess there's always a first time for everything. And then these are the handles, and you can see there's actually like a screen so that you can count. But I'm not sure what you do, why you would add these balls on there. I guess if you were just using them like poi balls for like weight instead of actually jumping. Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe you don't actually, maybe instead of jumping, you actually just do it with your hands and jump. I don't know. Let me know if you know how to use a digital jump rope and what these little guys are for and how you attach them and why. So I'm sure I could read the instructions. I am grateful that they included instructions in here, but it looks pretty easy to attach the balls. I'm just not sure why. It says repeat with the second jump rope handle. I guess you just put them on the handles. Slide. I don't know why. You just attach it to the handle, but I don't know why. All right, we have a last one. You can see I like clearly go to the gym a lot and use things like that. The last one is on page 302, and honestly, let's see. The last page was like it was like just a very, 306 was the last page. So we only had a little bit more, and let me see if I can, yes, I remember this. So I actually have one of these, but let me go ahead and pull this out. This was actually shrink wrapped as well. So something came over him. It was something he was aware of, but it surprised him nonetheless. He'd never shown that side of himself to anyone before, but she asked for it. She laughed at him, and then she asked him to leave. As she turned away to go to the door, he hit her with the only thing he had in his hands, his big, heavy, hardcover copy of Moby Dick, and she dropped to the floor. So we're supposed to believe, by the way, that he like knocked her out with like, this must have been a hard, heavy book, because she actually like thinks she passes out for a little while. So we got this copy of Moby Dick, but it's a little guy, and it's not that heavy because it's actually a safe, which I do think is kind of cool. This one is a combination safe. Let me see if I can turn it. So, and it does have instructions on how to set it, but this is kind of a fun thing to have on your bookshelf, right? I actually have one that is supposed to look like, it's like a fabric covered dictionary, and because it's like small and fabric covered, it looks really real. I feel like if I do have a copy of Moby Dick, but it's got like, it's like leather bound. This looks like a very modern version of it, but this is kind of a cool thing to include. But again, we have like all of these gifts that are basically like modern interpretations of things that were used as weapons again in the book. So a little bit dark in terms of the actual gifts. I don't know. We got like, but again, so we got our cutting board, we got the jump rope, we got the safe, the Moby Dick safe, and then what was the second thing that we got? I forget. Now I've already lost it. So we had the cutting board, the jump rope, the safe, and what was the other thing? Why can't I remember? Oh, it was in here and I already closed it up. What was it? Why can't I remember? Oh, the pop socket. All right. Well, as you can tell, I thought the book was good. It had some twists and turns. There were some red herrings that were not really red herrings, and then there were some maybe not necessary characters or like tie-ins, because it was very much everything had to be tied, everyone had to have a lie, everyone had to have a secret, but I guess that keeps it suspenseful. The gifts were not my favorite, and maybe it was just because they weren't as spread out as I think they could have been, because some of these things were referenced a little bit earlier. It could have been spread out a little bit more. And I think it just has to do with the fact that they're not like items that I will use as much as, for example, like the last monthly curation was. But let's go ahead and end with our letter from the author, and then I do hope that you will join me later this evening, or even if it's days later, for the live stream with Priscilla. So, dear reader, I am so pleased you have found my book, What Have You Done? And I hope you'll be surprised and satisfied by the read. My novels always feature a host of morally flawed characters, usually neighbors and family members who keep secrets from one another and become trapped in their own lies. And some of them have done terrible things, which they may or may not be able to live with. What Have You Done is entirely fiction, though of course secrets, lies, and murder happen in our neighborhoods far more often than we'd probably like to admit. In this story, I knew I wanted to start off with a body being found, and that the rest of the book would introduce readers to a cast of characters who all seem to have a motive for committing the crime. Over the course of the novel, if I've done my job, my hope is that you will waffle between suspects, not knowing who the murderer is until the very end. And we definitely did a little bit of that in our book club discussions. But one element I was very intentional about from very early on was giving a voice to the victim. Here, Diana is a high school student, and though I don't want to give away any spoilers, I will say that it was important to me that as a young woman, she have her story told from her own perspective. Many characters in the book attempt to put Diana in a certain box or paint her in a specific light to serve their own narratives, but I felt it was critical that you, the reader, get to hear from Diana herself. I wanted her to speak the truth, even if it isn't enough to save her in the end. Parentheses, I promise I'm not giving anything away here. She's found dead on page 5. I can't wait for you to dive in, and I do hope you'll let me know what you think. So I often like to read these author's notes at the end, even though I know they're probably meant to be read at the beginning. But that was interesting. I do think it was cool that she used that device and had Diana, even though she is dead, speak to us, even though she isn't quite aware of everything that's going on or even who her own killer is until the very end, just like the reader. So I didn't think the element of supernatural was like necessary, but I guess that was just to throw us off a little bit. Overall, it was an enjoyable thriller slash mystery for me. The box curation, not my favorite, but not terrible. I don't know that it necessarily warranted the extra $15. Usually I don't know, I think maybe I'd be okay with like 3 items still, but them being higher quality. But maybe that's just because I don't know how to use a digital jump rope. But it was pretty interesting, and I wanted it to be even more unexpected, and I feel like all of the suspects were men, right? Because they are objectifying all these women and girls, and I kind of wanted us to be surprised and have like a nasty lady in there too. I thought that would have really been the thing to be the unexpected twist, but that wasn't the case necessarily. You guys let me know what you thought in the comments below, and like I said, if you can, join us for the live stream. I'll see you soon in my next unboxing.